on your side. WBRC Fox 6 News starts with First Alert weather.
Yeah, that first alert, we're going to be getting a little rain tonight.
Folks in T-Town already are. Fred in for JP. Fred, this could start a stormy weekend.
Yeah, we're going to start off on a bit of a stormy note, at least with some isolated thunderstorms, something you should be aware of, particularly if you're in areas south of the I-20, I-59 corridor across West Alabama, most particularly. And as you can see down in Pickens County, Greene County, there is a little lightning associated with this. It looks as if most of this will stay south of the Birmingham area, but back into Mississippi, you can see, as Jonathan alluded to, some stronger thunderstorms. Most of those still staying to the south and progressing generally from west to east, back down towards Scuba and Philadelphia, Mississippi, and then on down further south. If your travel plans included a trip to the beach this weekend, not a great start there. We're going to talk about the showers and the thunderstorms. Oh, and colder air just in time for the first day of spring. I know you'll want to stay tuned for that.
Fred, thanks. We'll give you a traffic alert. All lanes just now opening on Elton B. Stevens and University there on I-59.
Birmingham police cleared that 4-car wreck just about 10 minutes ago. This happened before 4 o'clock on the northbound side of 59 there. Now, breaking around the world tonight, a key suspect in the Paris terrorist attacks is captured and in custody tonight. It's a huge break for Belgium officials who have been looking for Salah Abdeslam for months now.
3 people who were sheltering him also arrested in that midday raid that injured Abdeslam. Investigators proud of their capture, tweeting the news late this morning. We've got a lot more on the arrest and the implication for terror investigations ongoing in our next half hour.
Breaking in Fairfield tonight, more bad news for steel workers. 200 are now added to the list of those losing their jobs. According to the BBJ, this comes after months of cost-cutting efforts. Steelmaker laying off 800 people across the country today. The company idling its Fairfield tubular operations site next month. We're following the story. We're in Fairfield for you tonight with a lot more on our WBRC News app and our 90 minutes of news starting tonight at 9. Well, they weren't laid off, thankfully, but in Fairfield, imagine getting to payday. Your boss won't sign your check. How do you start your weekend? How do you get your groceries? That's what held up checks for Fairfield City employees for most of this day. Just late this afternoon, they can finally cash them. That's right. It's been a heck of a Friday for these folks. For several hours, those paychecks were actually held hostage as city leaders fought over who had the authority to release them. What you see right here, these are all employees. They're standing on the steps of the Fairfield City Hall just waiting to get their paycheck. Melanie Posey was there for all of this drama today. She joins us now. Melanie, tell us what happened.
Well, Janet, you'll remember it was just 1 week ago today that we were here as the city council, 4 city councilors voted to get rid of the city's police department. Well, earlier today, waiting here on these steps behind me with those city employees, you can just about imagine their frustration and their concern.
You asked me a question, I'm answering you.
That was the scene inside Fairfield City Hall around noon Friday, nearly 2 hours after employees were supposed to be paid, but weren't.
It's payroll. The people have done their due diligence and had 40 hours, 8 hours of work, and they need to be paid.
City Councilwoman Gloria Matthews' signature was needed on the checks, but she refused to sign them, saying her repeated requests to the mayor for a list of retired and current employees hadn't been met. Why was that info so important?
Legal matters, and it's my signature. If I'm going to put my signature on a check, I need to make sure that it is legitimate.
But Mayor Kenneth Coachman said the list had nothing to do with payroll, adding Matthews was holding employees hostage.
It is a power play. Well, I'm not going to pay the employees until I get what I want. That sounds quite childish to me.
For over 2 hours, employees waited on the steps of City Hall.
Of course, like a lot of people here, everybody got obligations. So, you know, some of my obligations may not be met. But, you know, my bigger concern is this what we have to go through consistently, you know, every payday?
Then, just before 2:30, the checks were signed. As for what brought about the resolution,
I don't know if it was the list, but she received some information. And so that was satisfactory to her, and we moved on.
To all the employees, I would like to say I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
And late this afternoon, both Mayor Coachman along with Councilor Matthews said that they both do not foresee any problem, or certainly not this problem, happening again next payday, which is in 2 weeks from now. Live in Fairfield tonight, Melanie Posey, WBRC Fox 6 News, on your side.
Thanks, Melanie. That developing news in Birmingham, where a veteran is recovering after shooting himself in the wrist. It happened this morning outside the VA hospital. A spokesperson for the VA says the man walked into the hospital after shooting himself. It's not clear if it was accidental. Police immediately confiscated the gun from him and took care of him until paramedics arrived and then took him to UAB Hospital, where he will likely undergo a mental evaluation. We'll be following this. We'll have updates on the WBRC News app. There is new information in the deadly stabbing of a Birmingham woman. Police now say they believe her son did it, and they have him in custody. Relatives found 47-year-old Rosalind Welton dead in her home last night in the 600 block of 72nd Street South. The son, whose name has not been released, was captured at an Irondale apartment complex. Police say as they were closing in on him, he cut himself in an apparent suicide attempt. He was rushed to a hospital for treatment.
That's part of a busy 24-hour stretch for Birmingham police, wrapping it up tonight. We've been on the scene with them of multiple violent incidents, the stabbing, a shooting, and more. When with the weather warming up, we're all going to be out and about more. So how concerned should you be about your overnight safety while you're in the Magic City? It's a question our Beth Shelburne's been looking into today. She joins us with the latest on those late night cases and, Beth, what police are recommending for all of us to stay safe.
Yeah, Jonathan, you said it. It was a busy night for law enforcement in the Magic City. Here's how these incidents played out overnight last night. First, just before 9 p.m., shots were fired inside a Walgreens in the 600 block of Lom Avenue near Princeton Hospital. Then at 10:30, a triple shooting in the 200 block of 9th Avenue North. Now, here's what we know about both incidents. No arrests in the Walgreens shooting, and no one was shot, but one person was injured in a scuffle with the suspect. Police say there were 2 men involved in that incident at the Walgreens. Now, that triple shooting near Parker High School, we know one person was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Another person went to the hospital in a personal vehicle. We haven't been told anything about the third person shot. One person, we are told, was taken into custody. It's unclear if that person is a suspect or just a person of interest. But police say with overall violent crime, they have a strategy.
It's kind of challenging to prevent homicides, but one thing that we can do is focus on 3. And we call those focus on the key 3, and which is the people, places, and behaviors.
So again, police say that most crime can be traced to those 3 things. Their advice, if you want to stay safe, think about the people that you hang around with, the places where you gather, and the behaviors that you engage in. And of course, we'll have the very latest in all those investigations on our WBRC News app. Janet, Jonathan.
All right, Beth, thanks very much. New tonight, the governor's billion-dollar prison plan is now headed to the Senate floor, but not everyone thinks it's such a good idea. Rick Durney talked to a member of the Alabama Correctional Organization who says it will not solve all of the state's prison problems.
The legislative liaison of the Alabama Correctional Organization says after several days of talking with lawmakers, he and leadership cannot support the governor's $800 million bond issue to build 4 state-of-the-art prisons. The governor and supporters of his bill campaigned aggressively this week to promote the plan designed to reduce overcrowding and introduce modern prison designs to ease problems with understaffing and security. The governor pointed to recent violence at Holman Correctional as a call to action. The governor and his staff insist the proposal, which would cost the state up to $1.5 billion in repayment over a 30-year period, is designed to save money through the construction of 3 large male prisons and a female prison within a 3-year period. Alabama senators consider the plan as early as next week, but Stacey George of the ACO says while his group has been supportive of prison reform efforts, they can't support this.
We cannot find anything in there that addresses our immediate needs, which is inmate population coming down, wages increased to retain and recruit new officers. So we can find nothing in there to support for the immediate needs. 3 or 4 years from now, that's great, but that's $1.5 billion over a 30-year period of time.
Now, even supporters of this measure say you can expect lots of amendments when it goes before the full Senate sometime next week. In Birmingham, Rick Durney, WBRC Fox 6 News on your side.
Updates tonight on 2 deadly accidents in Jefferson County. The coroner telling us it was 30-year-old J.W. Hall from Quinton killed in this bad wreck over on Birmingport Road yesterday morning when his car ran off the road and struck that utility pole, flipping over. Coroner also confirming for us it was 20-year-old Brandon William Purnell from Hoover killed in this single motorcycle accident in the 8000 block of Bluff Ridge Road in McCalla. Investigators think he lost control in a curve, ran off the road, and then hit a rock. We got an update for you tonight on a Northport fire that burned several families out of their homes. The fire chief telling us it may have started with a child playing with a lighter.
It's a sad story. Kelvin Reynolds spoke with the chief just a few hours ago. He joins us now. Kelvin, what do they think happened?
Well, Northport Fire Chief Bart Marshall told me just a couple of hours ago that they believe that the fire that happened in the building that you see behind me, they're calling the fire accidental. They're basing that on talking to someone who says that they were a witness and inside the building and they saw a child playing with a lighter near a bed where the fire started on Thursday. Now, firefighters arrived here at Knowles Circle Apartments around 4:30 on Thursday. Now, no one was inside. That's because a babysitter and several of the kids that the babysitter were watching got out safely. Firefighters say that fire was actually coming through the roof when they got here. Now, they managed to get the fire under control and out in about 10 minutes. Bart Marshall says he's basing that on the fact they'd actually been training on a similar fire earlier that day, so they were more than prepared. But once again, he says parents need to be careful with kids, especially when it comes to matches as well as lighters.
We try to teach the parents mainly to keep any lighters or any kind of things out of their way. They are going to emulate the parents. They're going to do what the parents do. So if a parent's playing with a lighter, the child's more likely to do that.
Now, I did speak off camera to a woman who says that she was the sister of one of the women that was living inside of this apartment complex. She says that her sister is still very shaken up and that they lost all of their belongings in the fire from yesterday. Coming up on Fox 6 News at 6 p.m., you'll hear what agencies like the Red Cross is trying to do to help them out. Live in Northport, Kelvin Reynolds, WBRC, Fox 6 News on your side.
You could be closer to paying another 6 cents for every gallon of gas you're buying. Next, how close the tax hike is to becoming reality.
More than halfway through yet another legislative session, are we any closer to getting an acceptable state budget? Well, it looks like it depends on who you ask.